Welcome to Milspouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to telling the stories of military families, one spouse at a time. Need some inspiration as you navigate military life? Moves, deployments, raising military kids, keeping your marriage together, career issues, and more? Get an encouraging, humorous outlook from a spouse who's been there for 30 years and more moves than she can count. Join host Jen McDonald, author of the book You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse who knows that we're stronger together. Grab your cup of coffee or a glass of wine and sit back and relax as Jen talks with military spouses, both new and experienced, who will give you real-life hope and support for your own Milspouse journey.
Before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to take a quick minute to say thank you so much for listening. We just launched the first 3 episodes of Milspouse Matters last week, and the response has just been so incredible, and I'm so grateful for all of you who've listened and rated and subscribed. We ranked on iTunes in the personal journals category in the first couple of days, which was such a surprise, and it was so wonderful, and it's thanks to you all. I also want to say thank you so much to my talented friends, Lana Simmons and Tara House. You heard Tara last week, who are my dynamic producing and editing duo, who I could not be doing this without. That is for sure. One way to get this in front of more people who would like to hear stories of military families is if you continue to share it, to rate it on iTunes and subscribe on iTunes. So I'm just going to ask you real quick to do that. If you haven't already, just hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss an episode. Again, thank you so much for listening. Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Milspouse Matters. I'm Jen McDonald, and today I'm so excited to be talking to Christina Youngblood and sharing her story with you. Here is a little bit about Christina. She's an Army veteran and an Air Force spouse who just PCS'd from Belgium to Utah with her husband and 2 daughters, ages 4 and 6. She's always loved writing and has found a home for it on her blog, Heart and Stripes. She has a true passion for helping fellow veterans that suffer from PTSD as she does. Christina also enjoys providing support to other military spouses. She's experienced many different situations with 8 years of service in the Army and a husband with over 17 years of service in the Air Force. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Heart and Stripes. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're joining me. We were just talking. We feel like we've known each other because we've followed each other online for probably a couple of years, and it's our first time talking, so it's exciting.
I know. After 4 years in Belgium, I'm finally hearing your voice.
And you guys you just moved back.
Yes, we got here first of August we flew out. So it's been quite the few weeks, really.
Yeah, so as we're recording this, it's mid-August. So you are really just right in that transition period of coming back from overseas. Now, was that your first overseas tour as a family?
It was our first overseas tour. My husband has been in Texas, we've been in Georgia, and then we just did 4 years in Belgium, and now we're out in Utah enjoying the scenery here in the mountains.
A little different.
It is. It's very different. We both grew up in Florida, so it's kind of different, but it's really nice.
Yeah. And how are your kids adjusting to all the changes? Because that's a huge change.
I think initially it was really hard for them because when we moved to Belgium, they were so young. So that's really the only home that they have known. So this transition was the first time that they've really experienced moving away from friends and, having that distance between them and their best friends. So we've had to promise a lot of Skype and phone calls and all those things. But I think now they're doing better. They start school soon. So they're really looking forward to making some friends, and they're both very outgoing. So I think they'll be okay.
And are you on a base, or are you guys going to be going to school in the community?
We are in the community. We chose not to do base housing because there was a 3 to 6 month waiting period.
Oh.
We didn't really want to deal with that.
Yeah. So you're still right in the throes of temporary furniture. You don't have your own things. So kudos to you for coming on.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny because they told us, your express shipment should or unaccompanied, we always call it express, but unaccompanied should only take like 10 days. We are on day 30 right now.
Oh
And
gosh.
we
And that's
still
just
don't
all
have
the
it.
little things you really, really need and want to make it'll probably all show up
Yes.
at the same time
I know. We
with your
have
regular.
the Air Force ball coming up, and my husband's mess dress is in our
Oh
expression
no.
unit. So I was
Well,
like, well,
if
let's hope that comes.
if you were wanting an excuse not to go,
Right?
I mean, nobody could fault you. That's
I mean, we can't go if he doesn't have it. I'm not
right.
paying for that again.
Yeah, that's for sure. So your children are small, and like you said, your husband's been in the Air Force for quite a while, and you were serving in the Army. So how did you two meet?
We actually met when he was in high school. So
Okay.
we have known each other for quite some time. I'm 4 years younger than him. So back in the day when he was in high school, it was
Yeah.
inappropriate to date me because I was 4 years younger.
Right.
But we reconnected about, actually, yeah, this year will be 8 years,
Hmm.
or 9 years actually this year. We reconnected on Facebook, and I just found him, sent him a message, and he was deployed at the time, and I
Uh-huh.
was just about to get out of the Army. He came home from his deployment, and a week later, I was out of the Army. I had ETS'd out of the Army. We started dating. We're inseparable from that moment on, and
Really?
eight months later, we were married.
So you just knew pretty
Oh
much right
yeah.
away, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
that's
actually
funny.
when he tells the story, it's cute because he says the second he got the email, he knew that he was going to marry me.
Oh,
So,
that's adorable.
isn't it? I know he's such a sweetheart.
That's very romantic. That's so cute.
It's
Now,
nice too because I get to tell my kids, like we knew each other as
right.
high school students. So,
Yeah. Well, did either of you have any background with the military, like growing up at all?
his uncle was in the Army, and his cousin that he grew up with is actually in the Air Force still. He's about to hit 20 years, so he's
Hmm.
just a couple years older than him, than my husband. And my entire family, all the males in my family have been in the military. I'm the
Really?
first female that had joined the military.
And what did they think about that?
They were pretty hesitant. They really didn't
Oh,
want me to.
yeah.
But I think once I did, and I joined the National Guard, but as soon as I finished training, I was deployed overseas for
Hmm.
15 months. So I went straight into, like, a month after I finished basic training in AIT, I went straight into deployment.
And you were
So,
young, right?
oh gosh, yes. I was
Mm.
20, I turned 21 during my deployment.
Uh-huh.
It was quite the experience, but I think it was extremely important for me. Just growing up, my mom and my dad separated when I was young, and my main father figure was my uncle, and he retired as an E9 from the Army. He was a huge influence on that.
So is he still living?
Oh yes, he's in Florida, and he's still one of my main influences in life. My husband and I talk to him, and his wife, my aunt and uncle, are really just pillars of
Hmm.
our life because they're both very Christian. Growing up, my aunt and uncle were the ones that took me to church, just were consistent in my life. And
Wow.
that was a huge point of making me the person that I am.
That's wonderful. So when you were going through the challenges with deployment, was he one of the people that you talked to a lot about it and afterwards?
Yes, he actually deployed before I went to
Mm.
basic training, and I lived with my aunt during that time frame.
Oh, wow. So
And
you really saw all sides of it.
yes, and so it was kind of a crazy ride, and he was infantry, so he's dealt with a lot.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely been the one person that I know I can go to and talk to about really anything.
Yeah.
And my aunt has also been one that I can go to when it comes to the military spouse side.
Right.
She's lived that life, so she is a huge help when it comes to the struggles that I face there too.
Right. Right. And 15 months, I mean, I don't think they're doing them that long anymore, but I know at that time that was
No,
the
yeah,
way it was.
it was rough because you know a year is already long enough. I mean, even
Right.
6 months really is so long. And doing 15 months. You had the initial rotation of the initial invasion, and then we were that next rotation.
In Iraq?
So, yes.
Okay.
So I was in Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar. I bounced around because we were setting up, the unit that I was attached to was setting up all the finance offices, all the contracting. So we were moving the money throughout all of those different places. So we saw a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for you, I'm trying to think how to word this. So probably what you expected it to be and what the reality of it actually was were very different. So if you want to talk about that.
Just as such a young, really, I was a kid, honestly, such a young kid going over there. You're already away from home. Now you're so far away from home. You're dealing with being scared for your life, honestly, every day. And just a lot of things coming at you at one time, and trying to stay somewhat sane during all of it is indescribable, really. It has definitely helped me become the person that I am and be able to handle being a military spouse. I think with my background in the Army, I'm able to deal with a lot of the situations that my husband faces or that we face as a family and take it in stride. Whereas I think other military spouses kind of freak out a little bit. I kind of just say, it's the military life. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We'll get through it.
And
so I think that's helped.
Yeah. It's interesting that my youngest just turned 20, and I just think about, wow, that's how old you were, when you went.
Yeah.
And then our oldest son is deployed right now, which is a very, very strange thing because, I never went like you did, but my husband went multiple times. And you just kind of, like you said, you deal with it because this is the hand you're dealt with. On some level, you go, this is what we signed up for, whether we understood what that meant or not until the reality of it hit. And I was just very pragmatic about it when it was my husband. And now that it's my son and he has a family, this is me now. I'm like, we shouldn't be sending people over there. Like, this needs to stop. Like, somebody needs to stop this. They shouldn't be tearing families apart like this. And I thought, but we did it,
Right.
multiple, we've spent years apart. And it's just interesting when it's your kid or someone that seems so young, these young troops. And I just go, we got to stop this.
Yeah. I have a nephew. He is 13 and he is all about the military. Like it's amazing. He knows more than my husband and I know, and we're in it, because he just loves planes. He loves the history. He can tell you every little detail you could possibly imagine. And, like he wants to join. And I'm like, no, do something else.
And I didn't feel that way when he joined. He kind of surprised us with it. We were very proud, and you kind of feel like, okay, especially if your kids are young, when they grow up and you realize we didn't ruin them by moving them around. They actually still want to be part of this life. And it's kind of like the family business, because my husband just retired. And so he had just joined a couple years before that. And we're like, well, we're leaving someone in the family business.
Right.
And
I think too, they get so comfortable in this lifestyle. Like, it sounds weird, but yes, it's a crazy lifestyle and you're moving a lot and you're doing a lot, but you get comfortable in that craziness.
Yeah. And I'm curious too. I'm wondering, since you were female, did you have a lot of females in your unit, or were you like just one of a few, or how did that go?
While I was deployed, we were fillers to an active duty unit. So there was 30 of us that kind of from my unit that filled in the active duty unit, and there were about half of them were females.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't all live in the same area because we were different jobs.
Right.
Because I was a paralegal, but then they tasked me as part of the general's security team as well. So I kind of wore multiple hats. And so I worked in the command center, whereas most of the other people I deployed with from my unit were finance. So they were over in a different area. So I didn't really see them much. There were
Oh,
a
wow.
couple of the girls that I stayed in the tent with, and I'm still friends with a few of those still,
Mhm.
but majority of them I really didn't see. The actual unit, once I came home from deployment, I moved over to a air defense battalion,
Mhm.
and I was actually, gosh, I think it was a brigade for us. I think for Air Force that might be MAGCOM level. I'm
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
sure. I haven't
Yeah, I
really
don't know
figured out
correlation.
that.
Yeah.
um, but I was up at brigade level, and there were probably more males than females, but I still had quite a few females that I worked with in the office because
Yeah.
once I came back from deployment, I got a full-time position and
Mhm.
worked full-time for the rest of my 8 years.
And how was that for you as far as kind of feeling like a female in a male world? Like, what was the biggest challenge with that for you?
It's really hard because they're great people, but I think they see you as a female. They don't
Mhm.
see you as an equal.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how hard you try, they don't really see you as an equal. You can't do the things that they do. So that was a little bit of a battle. And when I came back from deployment, my uncle was still in,
Mhm.
and he was at the brigade that was actually just down the road from mine since it was infantry.
Yeah.
And anytime I was around that his unit, he would make me leave. He didn't like me around them because it was all
Oh.
infantry guys. So I battled that a little bit.
You didn't feel like you
you
could
know,
just be yourself as a professional, as a soldier,
right,
that you
right.
weren't seen that way.
I worked hard to get to where I was, but I never felt like I was. I mean, the attorney I worked for was amazing, and he knew, and he still to this day like will tell you that I did my job and I did it well. I think the other people, they just struggled to kind of see
Yeah.
you as an equal.
What can change that? I mean, I'm just because I think it's crazy, and I've
I
been
think
friends with
I
enough
mean, I've
female
been
active
out
duty to
for
know that it's an issue, and I know that it's an issue, but I
absolutely. And I've been out for, going on 9 years now. So I have seen somewhat of a change in the
good.
sense that, especially in the Army, because now so many females are allowed to do those male jobs. They were
Yeah.
male only jobs, but when I was in, and now they're not.
Mhm.
Um, and I've seen a lot more females going up in rank, getting higher in rank, getting in command. So I
Mhm.
think it's finally starting to turn, and they're starting to see us as an equal. But I also feel like the second they see you, if they see you out and they see you dressed nice and girly,
Yeah.
it might affect their opinion of you.
And isn't that
It's
crazy?
almost it is. It's almost crazy because you feel like you can't be girly and tough.
Yeah.
When in reality you are.
Yeah.
I've faced a lot of things, and I've come through a lot of things, but they never saw me as being that tough.
Hopefully it'll just keep changing for the better. I think we've made a lot of forward strides, but yes, there's always improvement that
Absolutely. And
can
I think
happen.
it all changes as, newer leadership comes into play
Sure.
that doesn't have that mindset, like
Yeah. Yeah.
my husband will tell you, he's now reached the senior NCO level, but he'll tell you firsthand his wife's a bad chick. Like he'll tell you she's done things I could never do, So I
Yeah.
think getting that type of leadership into play will help a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I was looking at your site, and I know that you are really open about having PTSD, and I one of the blog posts you have is says PTSD, I have it, but I no longer suffer from it. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that as far as how you dealt with that coming back, and even whatever you want to share about that.
Yeah, absolutely. PTSD is rough.
Hmm.
You never want to. When I came back, I don't. It's
Did
kind
you
of hard
know right
to.
away
I did
that was an
not.
issue,
No,
or did it take some time?
no. It definitely took some time. Everybody always said, "I just thought that was your personality,"
Oh, wow.
and that's what got me really hard. Is if before you leave. you're this happy-go-lucky, like I was, like I just had fun. I was a great, fun person. And then when I came home, I was full of anxiety. I was moody. I hit depression. Like there were so many different things to me, to my personality, and people just thought that's who I had become.
Yeah.
Whereas really I was just suffering with PTSD and didn't know how to handle it.
What
And
made you realize?
Can't really.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. You can't really. You have to realize that you have it.
Yeah.
I think if someone would have walked up to me and said, "I think you have PTSD," I would have been like, "What are you talking about? No way."
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a hard pill to swallow that something has affected you so much that it is now affecting your whole life.
And it's somebody else. That happens to other people, right?
Right. You never want to think that it happened to you. I think what really triggered it for me was I was actually in a relationship before my husband. I was dealing with a lot of not so great things in that relationship. And I went to a therapist for it. And sitting down talking to that therapist, she was like, "Hey, Christina, I think this goes deeper than what you're dealing with in this relationship."
Oh, you thought it was just the relationship and
right. I thought, and granted, it wasn't a good relationship. It wasn't a relationship I should have been in. However, in a way, I'm grateful that happened because it helped me go get help, which in turn helped me realize that, hey, you do have PTSD. That was, gosh, almost 10 years ago that I did that. And I still see a therapist. It's not something that you totally recover from and don't need help dealing with. I don't see a therapist as often anymore because I have my coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
But it doesn't control me anymore.
Yeah.
And it used to control me. So I think if I had to stress something, it's that if you do feel you have it, then go talk to someone. I mean, there's no shame in it, honestly. Right. Every time I talk to my therapist, I'm like, oh, life is better now. Got that off my chest.
Well, and what were your main symptoms? You said you were moody. Were you having sleep issues?
I was having nightmares. Very bad nightmares. Even after still seeing a therapist, I was still having them. It wasn't until I actually started seeing my new therapist that I was able to work through and feel better on that aspect.
Yeah.
So the sleep was hard to come by. Anxiety, to this day, I still have it, but in crowds, the anxiety that I would have is insane.
Wow.
The mood swings. I mean, I could be happy 1 second and someone you wouldn't want to be around and 2 seconds later. I can't say that it's all gone because I don't feel like it will never be gone. I still have issues with crowds, but now I have to just prepare myself. Like if we want to go to a big city where I know there's going to be a lot of crowds, like especially when we lived in Belgium, we would want to go do something in one of the nice cities. I would have to take pretty much the whole day prior and just be quiet, be alone, chill, no TV, just kind of keep myself calm and prepare myself so that I wouldn't be so overwhelmed in a big crowd.
Yeah. Is that still the way it is?
Yeah. I actually, we had to go drop something off to another base when we lived in Belgium. And instead of going to the base, we told the military member we'd meet them in a city. And we were only supposed to drop, it was coins. We were only supposed to drop the coins off to her and leave.
Yeah.
And she ended up running late and we got stuck in the city for like hours.
Oh gosh.
And I had a full-blown panic attack in front of my kids, in front of my husband.
Yeah.
I was crying and hysterical. And this was just a year ago, really. Okay. It was the first time that my husband literally looked at me and was like, I comprehend fully what you're saying now. Like because he's never experienced it. He never really comprehended how I would feel.
Yeah.
And seeing me break down like that, he got us right out of there. He got me in the car, he got us out of there. And for the rest of the day, I was a mess. And I felt horrible because my kids saw it. But in the same aspect, it's a learning experience for all of us to say, okay, this is a serious thing. We have to deal with
And
it.
it's not something you can control, because if you could,
Not
you
at
would,
all.
right?
Absolutely. I would. Who wants to break down crying in front of these crowds of people?
So in that moment where that kind of thing is happening, or just all the things you've dealt with, what would you want other people to understand about PTSD, and if they have a loved one going through it, how to help? Like what would you want them to know?
You don't see the effects of it necessarily. A lot of it is internal. A lot of it is the member dealing internally with these different struggles and these different fights. And the biggest thing they can do is be open in communication with the other person. You know, like my husband, I used to not talk to him about it, but now in the last few years, I've opened up more with him about it and what I deal with. And though he doesn't fully comprehend it, I've at least expressed it to him. And, you know, even in that situation of being in the big city, he grabbed me right away and was like, let's go.
So you kind of needed somebody to take charge in that moment, because you could not.
You have to, right. Because I can't, my mind is not working. I'm having a breakdown at that moment. I need him to take me, get us out of there, and get me someplace quiet. And he was able to do that. So a lot of it is just kind of reading the other person. You know, if it's your spouse, you know what that person, who that person is, and you know if that behavior is not normal, then let's get them out of the situation.
That's so good. And I read a quote recently, and it was talking about depression and anxiety and grief are often masked with anger. So anger can be a symptom, and you're just dealing with this angry person, but really what the underlying thing is not anger. And I don't know if you went through that, if that was part of it for you or not, but that's just something to look out for sure.
Definitely anger is one of them. I did have a friend who got very angry when he started suffering from PTSD. He was a Marine. Mine was more of mood swings. I could be happy, I could be sad, I could be happy, I could be mad. You know, like it wasn't necessarily always anger for me. Mine was just total swings of moods. And it would be instantaneous. But anger, I feel like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like it happens more with the guys.
Oh, definitely.
Where they show more of the anger side of it. Whereas for us, we're females, we're going through all of our emotions.
That's actually
it's like everything hitting.
That's very true, actually, because it's a easier expression. It's an easier emotion to express, I guess.
Right. The guys, that's their automatic. Just get angry. Whereas us females, we experience every single emotion. And for me, it was like that in overdrive.
And just a little side note, I think I read on your site that you had used Military OneSource, but that if somebody is listening to this and thinking that's me and I just didn't even put it together, they do have a toll-free line on there, and I don't have it right in front of me. I'll pull it up to say it at the end, where you have free counseling.
I have it on my site under resources as well. I can't recommend Military OneSource enough. They do the 12 free. That's actually how I got my first counseling appointments were through Military OneSource. I got 12 free ones, and it's for each, you know, if you're dealing with marriage issues, you can get 12 free sessions for that. If you're dealing with PTSD, you get 12 free sessions for that. And I cannot recommend them enough.
And it's confidential.
They literally saved my life. Absolutely. I was still in at the time, and they did not contact my command. Like my command didn't even know until I said something.
I'm going to give the number real quick. It's 1-800-342-9647. And if you go to Military OneSource, they have a live chat, and there are even international dialing instructions if you're overseas. So if you are suffering or you just want to talk to somebody, just reach out, because like you said, you have the ability to speak confidentially with somebody, and you have all these free sessions. And I mean, it's a great resource. And that's something that's so interesting. At the end of Steve's career, there's still so many people that just don't realize that that's the official DoD site. They think it's just one
Right.
of many nonprofits or whatever. It's
No.
not. It's the actual Department of Defense resources that are for you as military and in military families. It's not just for the members. If you're a spouse or a child and you're wanting to talk to somebody, you have the right to also call. So definitely use that for sure.
Yeah, I can't recommend them enough. And honestly, even if you're just wondering whether you have these issues or you're suffering from PTSD, just call and go.
Yeah.
Like my life is totally different now than it was 5 years ago, even.
Yeah.
I still suffered from nightmares when my husband and I first got married. I still suffered from mood swings back when we got married. So, if you talk to him now, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, she's totally different."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm a lot more laid back now.
And are there any other resources that you really used a lot, or books or anything like that you could recommend?
I have a book, and it's kind of a different book. I picked it up off at the base one day out of nowhere, and it's called the PTSD Breakthrough, the Revolutionary Science-Based Compass Reset Program. And it's by Dr. Frank Lawless.
Uh-huh.
Um,
We'll put a link to that in the show
and
notes.
Right. And, it was kind of groundbreaking for me in the different ways that he approached PTSD and kind of considering it also to be a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
In his book, he explains, the different things you can do to help heal your brain,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. I absolutely love it. I couldn't do some of the stuff because I was in Europe and they didn't have those things there.
Okay.
So now that we are home, I've actually told my husband, one of the things is hyperbolic chamber treatments.
Uh-huh.
So I told him I actually wanted to attempt doing those and see, how much it helps. It's kind of an interesting book. I'll have to give you the link.
That is definitely interesting, and I'll be curious to hear how that works for you. Well, one thing that I'm curious about, because you've been through all this, you were active duty, and now you've been overseas. So do you find yourself connecting with other military spouses, or has that been a challenge for you, or where are you with the military spouse community? I know you're a blogger, but as far as, like in person.
Right. I have made some great friends in the military spouse community, but I've noticed that a lot of them that I have made are previous veterans as well.
Oh, okay. Because you have that common ground. I mean, it makes sense.
Right. I think sometimes other military spouses are a bit intimidated by me, not in the sense because I have been deployed or anything, but because I have knowledge regarding the military. If my husband comes home and starts saying, "Yeah, the DO said this," like I don't question. Wait, what's the DO? Like I know what he's talking about, and I think sometimes they get a little intimidated by that, and so it's a little bit harder to make military spouse friends with ones that haven't served.
Yeah, and for me, having been a military spouse for 100 years, I always just found, I think sometimes on the Milspouse side, it might be they just kind of aren't sure what the common ground is and don't know what to say. For me,
right,
I was, helped with different events and stuff. I always wanted everybody to feel welcome and to just come, and I kind of just always took it as, if you just are nice to everybody and treat everybody the same, you're going to be fine. You don't have to. I loved it when somebody was a veteran because I could pick their brain or whatever. And in fact, a friend of mine and I were both advisors for the spouses group when we were stationed in Hawaii. And she was a retired chief in the Air Force, and she would never bring that up. I always did. I'd be like,
right.
Maria's a retired chief. She knows, I'm like, come on, everybody give her a round of applause. And then if stuff came up that we had a question about, I would just go, now you remember, Maria's a retired chief. She probably knows the answer to this. She knows where we need to go for that. So I just think, there's no reason to be intimidated. Leverage that knowledge,
Right. I feel like they run the second they know that I've served. It's like they disappear. And I'm like, wait, I'm not that bad of a person. Like, come back.
Yeah.
So, and I also, after I got out and I married my husband, when we were stationed in Georgia, I worked in the legal office on base as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was around more military members. The spouses, I feel like, just run, and I'm like, wait, I'm over here, I can
Well,
help.
you might be falling into like the military ease speak and not even realize it, like
Right,
because you're around it all
exactly.
the
Like, just
time.
tell me if I'm doing it. Just tell me and I'll
I mean,
stop.
I'm even
I
not
don't
to the
realize
point. I
it.
mean, I know all the acronyms, and Steve would still say things, and I'd be like, okay, you need to speak English because I'm not sure what you
Yeah.
mean. And I'm like, don't assume I know. So I think it goes both ways for sure. Just everybody kind of, I don't know, this has just always been my approach, like give each other the benefit of the doubt and just, assume the best. And everybody wants a friend. And I've been in clubs and groups where we we had the bylaws where you could be active duty and join because I wanted everybody to have a place at the table. I never wanted it to be where we are excluding anybody because
Right.
especially like overseas, you're all in the same boat. None of you are living
Right.
next door to your parents or can drive over to your families for the weekend, most likely. It's just you kind of need each other.
It's a different world being a military spouse. It's
Oh,
something
sure.
totally different. And, I went from my 8 years of service to now I'm over 8 years of being a military spouse. And, it's different. I still have adjustment
Mhm.
periods to some of it because I'm like, why are they doing that? That's not how you do it. Oh, wait, this is the Air Force, not the Army. Like,
Yeah, I was going to make a snarky comment. I'm not going
right,
to say anything.
right, exactly.
That's too funny.
So, like, I still have adjustment periods. And I mean, I just feel like we all, as military spouses, male or female, because, now you have some more male
Hmm.
spouses that
Hmm.
are at home. I think we all just need to kind of band together and learn to just appreciate the different knowledge that each one of us brings to the table.
Sure.
Really, like, we're all in this together. Like,
Absolutely.
we're all that we have, because when you call home, and like, my aunt understands to an extent, but if I call my mom has no idea
Yeah.
what this military life is about because she's never lived
Yeah.
it. So I can't call home and be like, Mom, what do I do? I got to go to other military spouses
Yeah.
and be like, all
Yeah.
right, how do I handle
Well, and
this?
talk about like male spouses. I mean, talking about, as far as other spouses kind of skirting you because you're a veteran or whatever. I mean, I think male spouses have it to another degree. And I remember when we were stationed in Guam,
Absolutely.
there was everybody went to the pool all the time because it's Guam, and there was a
Mhm.
dad there that was always there with his kids, and you would just see it was so funny, like the other moms just kind of skirt around him, like kind of and I don't know, I guess I've always just been that person that's like I can't stand it if someone's left out. And so
Right.
we ended up being friends, and we talk about recipes and and I mean I just saw him at the
Right.
pool, but our
I mean, he's got to stay
yeah,
home
he was a
too, so he's got to
stay-at-home
figure it
dad,
out
and
too.
he was there with his little kids, and I was there with my. I was like, why are you guys all pretending like he's not here? You all see him. What are
Right.
you doing? And it just, I think we're getting better about that. I hope we're getting better about that as a military spouse community. And I think talking about it will help, and just encouraging the younger ones. There's no reason to be intimidated, and ask questions and be curious and be nice.
Right. And I actually, for the younger ones, I feel more compassion towards, because I'm like, come here, I'll help
Yeah.
you. Let's work through this.
Yeah.
Like, come on, I got this with you, because it is such a, if once you get thrown into it, especially if you're young and you have no
Yeah.
idea, like, it can be a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I taught to, even when we were overseas in Belgium, there were a couple of the spouses that came over, and they were newly pregnant or, newly married. They had no idea about this military life, and now all of a sudden they're living in a different
Right.
country. They're at not only in a different country, but they're at a geographically separated unit.
Hmm.
So there's like hardly anyone
No
there.
base support really
So
to speak of.
no base support. We were on a Belgian base. So really, it's just you and the 130 service
Wow.
members, and if they brought spouses. So I think there was, at the base we were at, there was, I want to say, like, 300 and
Hmm.
something total people. While it made for you to be close to those people, you're also fully immersed and you can be totally separate from those people if you don't make the effort.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
did you acclimate at all to the Belgian culture and make friends in the community there, or was it more with other military?
Absolutely. Our two daughters actually went to the local Belgian school. They are both fluent in Dutch. I am really great friends with quite a few of the locals there. I'm still in contact with them, and they've all said, "Hey, we're coming to visit. We're coming to America."
That's awesome.
So it's a great experience in that aspect, but you also have to put yourself out there. You know, like you're in a totally different country, and I think that was really hard for me initially. It took me at least a year to adjust to that. And to be okay even just going out by myself.
Oh yeah, I remember that in Germany too, and just feeling like
you just get so scared because you're like, are they going to speak English? How do I pay? Do they accept my card? Do they like all these different?
You don't ever think about if you're in the States. Just driving.
Yes.
Just driving. Even if they drive on the same side of the road, it's like trying to read signs or trying to figure out, where do I pull in? Am I doing this right? You know, all those things.
Right. Am I going on a bike path? That was always my worry. Because in Belgium, they have so many bike paths, and they're the same size as their roads, because the roads are really just for one car. So like you're pulling over to let the other car come by. Like I always thought I was driving.
Oh, you probably were sometimes. I'm sure.
I'm sure I was.
So what were the top things about Belgium that were just so different that you were surprised by, or, you know, didn't know about until you got there, if you can narrow it down? It's like in Germany, I remember like stores being closed on Sundays, or like you didn't mow your lawn on certain days. I mean, they're very rules oriented.
Yes.
I think Belgium is kind of similar, maybe a little more relaxed than Germany with some of that, but
I actually want to say they're stricter.
Oh, really?
Yes. Nothing is open on Sunday. Like right about 2 years after being there, they started opening select grocery stores from 8:30 to 12:30 on Sundays. But if they were open on Sundays, they did not open until late on Mondays. So you had to adjust to that. Sundays were quiet days. Like and you do not mow your lawn. Although my husband did a time or two because it just had to happen.
They'll come tell you
because
of his work. Just like they'll stare out their window. They'll come say something to you. You know?
We had the people that lived across the street from us were retired, and I actually posted pictures of it on my social media. She got up on top of her sunroom and was like mopping the roof. Like I just can't. They're super clean. Like your yard has to be immaculate. Your house looks immaculate. Not that I am nowhere near a dirty person by any means. I love a clean house. I am very OCD that way. But it was just seeing the way that they did it that sometimes I was like, you know, there's a pressure washer for that.
Like, you don't have to.
You don't have to get up there.
Too funny.
So that was quite interesting, like seeing some of that. But you adjust to it so much that coming back is hard.
It is. It's a reverse culture shock. I've written about it. I'm sure you have or will.
I will. I definitely will.
I just remember coming back. So we lived really remote in Guam, and you know, they spoke English. They had their local language, but you know, they spoke English. But just the difference of how things are, having everything shipped in, and I remember just coming back and the things that surprised me, that overwhelmed me, because I remember going to like Walmart or something. And first of all, going to Walmart, it's like there's a bajillion things. And I wanted to just buy Motrin. I remember standing there staring at this wall of choices. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where's just the freaking Motrin? I don't need like nighttime relief. I mean, it was just, and I remember just standing there. I wanted to just cry. Like I wanted to just leave.
I'm dying laughing right now because we were trying to do school shopping, like school supply shopping for the kids. And we're like, where is hand sanitizer? I can't find it.
This whole store. Like
we wandered around Walmart. It must have been for 10 minutes trying to find hand sanitizer.
And I just remember standing there completely glazed over, and my husband coming up, what are you doing? And I said, I was literally nearly in tears. And it sounds silly, but I was just all the sounds, excuse me. All the
Yes,
sounds.
that has been our number one
Yeah.
issue, is so loud everywhere we go.
So many people.
And
You're like,
it's
ugh.
well, in Belgium, they're not loud
Oh.
anyways, typically, unless, they're drinking. But um, in Belgium, you tune a lot out because you don't know what they're saying. Like, so if other people are talking around me, I didn't really hear it because I couldn't
Is it
understand it
because
anyways.
because I'm sure you learned
It
words,
was in
but it was too
Dutch.
fast for
Yeah.
you to keep up. Yeah.
Right, right. So you kind of tune it out, and then you don't really read signs as you're
Nope.
driving because it's in Dutch and you have no idea what they say. And then you come here back to America and you can read everything, you hear everything, and it's just so busy
It's
and
a
loud.
sensory overwhelm
And
for sure.
it it is. And even our kids are
Yes.
experiencing it where they're like, "It's so loud in here, mommy." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"I know, let's
Yeah.
go." And they speak Dutch, so they heard other
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
like, so it's been an experience. And just the way people take care of things
Yeah.
here, like moving into a different house, and okay, well, they have 5 cars parked out there. All right, that would never fly
Right,
in Belgium,
right.
but okay,
And you have
like,
it's like your brain is like,
let's
"That's not the right way." And you go, "Well, what is the right way? It's just
right,
different, right?" It's
right.
Yes. I feel you're gonna be in that stage for a little bit. Well, as we're
Ugh,
wrapping up, I have
it's
a
a
couple
lot.
things to ask you. If you were sitting with the younger version of yourself before, you went into the military, what advice would you give your younger self? Or would you? Or just say, I don't want to tell you.
Honestly, I would probably just say, quit worrying so much. Everything will work
Oh, that's
itself
good.
out. Yeah, because yeah, I think as a young person, you worry about every little aspect of
Mhm.
things instead of just kind of going with
Yeah.
it. And I mean, I remember getting ready to leave for basic training and I almost didn't go.
Oh, really?
I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I never
Yeah.
mind.
I changed
And
my
my uncle's
mind.
like,
That's
no, you're
not
going.
how this
He's like,
works.
get on that bus.
That's not how this works. Well, and you have some projects you're working on. If you want to talk about those, we've got some exciting stuff coming up.
Yes. Well, I think one of them is being overseas. We space age traveled a
Yeah.
lot, and space age traveling can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm going to come up with a guide for
Hmm.
that. What has helped me, especially when you have 2 young kids, because we had to travel back a lot for a couple of
Uh-huh.
funerals. So that was a big deal, on how to do it and how to do it with 2 young
Yeah.
kids. And then another pet project of mine is what I like to call the Go
Hmm.
Binder, because as military spouses, we have all these important documents.
Hmm.
And especially while we were overseas, they always told us have
Right.
it ready just
Yeah.
in case, because you
Yeah.
never know if we're going to have to
Right.
evacuate you. So, but I think it's good to have even stateside of a binder with all the important documents. And if you have a death in the family and you need to get home, you
You
have
can
all your
just grab it.
documents. If you have,
Hmm.
right, if there's a fire, if there's, anything really, a natural disaster, you have everything where it needs to be. And I
Heck,
think
I need to do that now. And
I'm,
we're not even in the military anymore.
oh, my husband laughs at me because when he needs something, he's like, "Hey, where is it?" And I'm like, "Let me get my binder."
That's awesome.
So,
So this would be like something printable or
um,
something you'd physically sell.
well, I'll probably initially do a printable version so that you can put it together yourself. But my ultimate goal is to actually have it where you can buy it and I ship
Oh,
it to
cool.
you. And then you just put your documents
Hmm.
in. So that is my little pet project that I've been working on actually since we lived in Belgium. And then I want to also create a course for new
Hmm.
spouses or even seasoned spouses to help them, learn the
Yeah.
military. That way, when your husband comes home and says, "Hey, my staff sergeant," you're not like, "Oh, what rank is that?" Like, hang on, like, just to help you, kind of like a spouse's boot
Yeah,
camp,
I love
pretty
it. I
much.
love it. That's so good. And we will link to her
Oh,
site that
thanks.
you can find out more at her site.
Yes, heart and
Dot com. Okay.
stripes.com.
So, well, definitely link to all of her social media and her site. But before we go, and this is the part that's fun for me. The whole thing is fun, but I've been doing this thing that I call a quick 5 at the end, where it's just some silly like little icebreaker questions to let listeners learn a little bit more about you. And hey, here's a little bonus. If you're doing a spouses event and you want an icebreaker, you listen to every show, you'll get new ideas. So,
hey, that's always a good thing.
Because I'm just like finding them everywhere. So we're not repeating them. We'll repeat some of them, but nobody ever gets the same 5. So here we go.
Okay.
So just a quick answer. So number 1 for Christina is, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sushi.
Oh, okay. So you're quick. What is your guilty pleasure?
Books. I will sit all day and read books.
So print or like Kindle or?
No, they have to be print.
I love it.
I cannot do electronic.
See, and I'm totally the opposite, because I can read it on my phone or my iPad, and when the lights are all off and I don't disturb
my husband hates it because I have so many books, and I probably our shipment is probably 20% books.
I love it. So, okay, here's one. What is your least favorite sound?
My kids screaming.
I love And this one, this can go, you can throw somebody under the bus, or you can choose to skip this. What is the worst present you've ever received?
Oh gosh. I don't really know. Honestly.
That's okay. So you're a nice person.
I know, like, my mom would be like, I'll do what the worst present my mom got, and that was she got a vacuum cleaner for Christmas.
So see, that's why they didn't make that mistake with you, because you probably heard about that growing up.
Like, I know. My husband knows better. Yeah. If it's not on my list, don't get it for me.
So the final question is, if money wasn't an object, what would you do every day? Would it be different than what you do now?
It would probably be different in the sense that our main goal is to build a house and my husband to be home and us not have to work once he gets out of the military. So if money wasn't an object, we would have the land, the house, and him and I would be able to be home together every day.
I love it. That's so family oriented. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's our ultimate goal, is to be able to spend, even if we do have to work, it to be our own businesses so that we can be together.
And do you know where you're retiring?
Somewhere south. Probably. Where, like, no higher than North Carolina, probably.
Yeah. San Antonio is great.
We tried to go there. We had it on our list. I really wanted to be there. It was our number 1. It was our number 1, but we didn't get it.
You might still.
We miss it. We visited there. We love it there. So fingers crossed we'll end up there one day.
Yeah. So many bases here, so that's where we got
some years left. He wants to go as long as they'll let him. So
you could still roll through here.
30 at these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you joined me today, Christina. And like I said, you can find her at heartandstripes.com, and you can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and keep up with all her projects and her return from overseas. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks for listening. If you like the show, just remember, go leave a review on iTunes or connect with me at jenmcdonald.net. I'll see you next week.
Connect with Jen at jenmcdonald.net or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also purchase her book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Love the show? Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes. Until next time, have a great week.